Nobody likes to wait. That's why we are live now, and we can wait some few minutes if anyone wants to watch this, or they're still struggling with the dark mode in in Power BI.
Or everyone is in Vegas right now and
Yes,
attending the
yes,
conference.
like
I'm
you.
not doing.
Yeah, you're there here only for the party.
No, yes,
And
no. Not. It was more like I want to visit the Grand Canyon and some of this stuff, and
Mm,
therefore Vegas is a really good destination to start from because there's a lot of flights in, a lot of flights out. So it's really a good spot to travel to. And fun fact, also there in a year, nearly 2,000 or more conventions
mm.
held in Las Vegas. So a lot of
Yeah,
hotels, a lot of flights in and out. So really
yeah.
good for conventions also.
Yeah, and I think this is the real USP when you're a big company and needs lots of hotel places, and then it's there are not so many cities that can afford this as good as Vegas.
So in in the weeks your hotels are quite cheap, and if you
Yeah,
think there are 150,000 beds you can occupy, so your company can
mm.
be pretty big.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but we're not only talking about Vegas, we're also talking about Fabric and Power BI and what we have did in the last months. What have been our highlights? And as you
So now I
already
have
have
to ask
shared
you.
the yeah?
Now I have to ask you. Can you enable the dark mode already?
No, not yet, because and I can show you this. So when I just bring my here, if you want to download it, and I need to share it here because it's still and I switched into English, so it's not only like a European problem, but it is still August here. And the only
Yeah.
way you can update is, I think, via the App Store of Power
Okay.
BI. So it's in somehow it's faster, but as I don't use Power BI from the App Store, but always use the full download. I don't know why. It's just because I think it's convenient. And the last update was crashing without doing a full install. But yeah, that's why I don't have it yet. And the MVPs are swagging with this, and yes, it's nice. So
So
the
did
the
Marcus
the
test it
only thing,
already?
yes, I think so, but he wasn't sure that he can make it. So as we don't see him, okay, there are lots of persons, not only MVPs just, but I think lots of people are that are using Power BI from the App Store. This is how it looks. But anyway, I'm not such a big fan of dark mode, so it seems like okay, fantastic update, but I even have VS Code in this, like
Okay.
in a very light mode. So I'm really not a fan of dark mode nowhere. But it's most wanted, so of course it's a good thing that it's there now. But I'm really curious. Will it be the only the menu? Because for dashboard design, it's quite problematic, I think,
Yeah.
when you have the canvas in black and then you don't see the same as the viewers then.
Um,
So, yeah.
there there is actually, if you are in the viewing mode, there is a dark mode already included. But the
Okay.
thing is, it's a high contrast mode. But if you're using
Mm.
it, it's changing the colors, it's changing everything. So it's not really helpful at some points for really great design because
Mm.
it's it's triggering something where it's a little bit it's odd. I will show it later
Mm.
maybe.
Yeah, yeah. And as we see here, I think Lucas has installed it here, and it's the one that the viewers see is still
Yeah.
white. So it's only the menu and all this
So it's only
white.
the authoring mode which is
Yeah.
switched to dark mode, and there's no default canvas where you say, okay, we have now not only white canvas, but we have also a dark canvas what we can use as a normal setting.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
got
so.
it.
No, that's okay because yeah, maybe this will be some trigger in a JSON file, but not now. Nobody has found it so far. So.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about Fabric, shouldn't we?
Yeah, so I think you had a data engineering project.
Yeah, I'm not the data engineering guy.
Yeah.
Let's
Now,
talk,
now you're the backend guy, and
let's talk about what is a project like and why we choose a setup what is not Fabric only. Because what I will explain is a setup where we using a connecting tool for typical things which are connected with RPEs. So everyone knows that you can connect RPEs with notebooks. And normally this is also a really good approach because it's completely under your control. You can maintain it by yourself. You can do everything what you want with a notebook to get data from every REST API as a JSON, write it in a lakehouse, and use it as you want. So fast approach, easy approach. But not so fast, maybe. Because think about if you are a big company or a small company, maybe you started your company, you often have the problem, you have a lot of software as a service tools. So you have a lot of APIs. And in this case, you have to write a lot of different notebooks. You have to maintain a lot of different notebooks. And let's say you are a company with 20 persons, you have like 10 tools because you started with best of breed approach from software as a service tools. And now you have the difficulty, so you want to connect to 10 sources. The 10 sources should be combined in one. So we follow this one data platform approach. So we want to bring all our data in our favorable database or data platform, as it's now called, Fabric. And we could write 10 different notebooks. Obviously, you need the personal resources. So you need someone who writes 10 different notebooks, or you need to buy someone to hire. Yeah, in some part, ChatGPT is great and it will help, definitely. But the thing is, every API is a little bit different. Some APIs are well documented, some APIs are not as well documented, and you have to do it for every API again. And even if you are using ChatGPT, what is great tool, what speeds this process up a lot. So both of us did ChatGPT using for HubSpot. So we created notebooks to connect to HubSpot with an API key and getting the data from HubSpot. So the main problem is when you have the API and when you have a notebook, you have to think about the structure of the data behind. And the most APIs are not made for singly for data extraction, they are made for communication. So the API is mostly made to communicate with an application and not made for getting all the data. Therefore, you have to tingle a bit around, you have to connect something. So in all cases, you need some time to write the notebook. And you have to maintain it. If something is changed, you have to maintain it. If you need new data, you have to maintain it. So you have not the easy approach. So a lot of people telling, oh, I have just a database. I have just a SQL database. Then it's easy. Then you're just connecting the data and you're getting the data. But if you have an API, sometimes you have to find the right wordings. You have to get the right schema into your database. You have to encode your JSON files and so on. And obviously you can do all of this. And obviously a lot of companies doing this. If they have the resources and if they have time and they say, okay, this is our approach. We want to have the complete source control. We want to go end to end with our own, with our own settings. And what we did for a company with a lot of sources and where we found, okay, we want to have a fast accelerator, fast starting point. we used a connector. And why we used a connector? Because obviously you have to pay at some point for this, so it's not no free lunch, but it enables you to really fast connect different sources. Which connector did we use? We used, or I used in this case, we used Fivetran. And now I want to show something. Let's yeah. Okay, now I have to switch. Now I can't look in the camera because I have only my laptop in front of me. I don't see Arthur's reaction now.
That's what happens
So you have
in Vegas.
space.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we see Fivetran. And what is Fivetran? Fivetran is a connector, and you see different things. You see one times connectors on one, two things. You set up the source and you set up the destination. And what I did for my testing purpose, as you can see, I set it up a connector to GitHub, a connector to YouTube Analytics, and a connector to Facebook pages. And you can just go to Add Connector, and here you find all the different source systems. So you see from the beginning some big things like Salesforce, but you also have things like HubSpot. So in our case, we could test how good is the connector and how good is our notebook, because we can just compare the data, what we get from our notebook and what we get from the connector.
Yeah,
So,
and it's more than in Power BI. So even Power BI has lots of connectors, but yeah, Fivetran has even more.
Yeah, it's way more, and it's especially I used it because of some of the new software as a service platforms, because this makes it easier. For example, one thing a lot of people knowing is Jira, and connecting Jira, you got strange JSONs, and here you can connect Jira and you're getting the tables. So really, really good. Or think about SAP. You also have some kind of SAP connectors. So a lot of different connectors are built in. A lot of different things you can directly connect, or also some kind of Oracle things are in. So you have on the one side the big database players, the traditional data warehouses, and on the other side you have things like Monday.com, or you can also go for different things from Google. So there are a lot of different connectors, a lot of different sources you can use. And also you can start with this, and in a acceleration you really start fast with this, and later in your project you can change it. Means you start with a connector, you start with a tool, and if you see, oh, we have only 3 or 4 sources, you can switch the sources later and say, okay, I'm implementing now the notebooks. So this is the source side, and on the other side you have destinations. So, and as you can see, I already connected my OneLake. So I can say add a new destination, and here you see different destinations where you can shift your data to. And obviously, if we want to work with Fabric, there's no Fabric, but obviously there is Fabric, because the Fabric connector is just the OneLake connector. And if you want to select this, it's really easy. I can say a destination name. I will just demo it for this part. And now this is what I really liked. So you get the settings, and obviously you do not know always what is my tenant ID, what is my client ID, what are my secret values, and so on. But here it comes the documentation in. You see on the right side a step-by-step documentation how to set it up. So they say exactly what you have to do in order to enable the write back into your OneLake. So really important, you need someone to make an entry for a service principal. So your service principal is needed to write into your OneLake. And also really important, so maybe I called my workspace before demo workspace, and with a space between demo and workspace, and this was not accepted, has no space in it. And when you set it up, you can add this service principal to your workspace, and then you are good to go. Then you have to bring all the data in here, and you can route data from your sources directly into your data lakehouse. And as you can see, I set up here the data lakehouse, and this data lakehouse, obviously I called it Fivetran to show what I did in my demo. Now I can just open it. I don't want to open the semantic model. I just want to open my lakehouse. So, and now we are seeing what I have imported. And as you can see, we have some metadata from Fivetran. We are not interested in this. We have different tables from GitHub. So I connected my GitHub, and we have also different tables from YouTube. And for example, if I go just on video analytics, now it needs a time. So now I see different my videos. I see the different things, what is belonging as attribute. And so you get a table directly from your source. And as many sources, you can shift it here. And then you can go with a typical bronze, silver, gold architecture. You can build your classical lakehouse architecture. So just get your data. The next step is transform it as you need. And the last step is analyze it. And if you're thinking about this, you also, so at the moment, it's just always the data. So it's just always this. It's not appending the data. But what could you do is you could use a data flow, you could use a pipeline, you could use a notebook to write this table in a next data lakehouse, or even in this data lakehouse, and append always the data, calculating the differences. And then you get like a running chart and so on. So you also can bring in some kind of historization when you're using the right structure within your database. So basically what the tool helped me to do in my scenario was to get really fast to the data, to set up really fast a connection, to get data out of the source system into my data analytics platform. And from this point on, it's just the normal work you have to do with your data analytics stuff, with your data management. So it's basically one tool what helps you to make a fast entry into your data. And later you can decide if you're willing to pay something, or maybe the free plan is enough. Or if you say, okay, I want to switch, I want to basically copy this approach with a notebook and write a notebook to get the same data. So this is something you have to think about later, but you can first start with, okay, easy grabbing the data, maybe also building small MVPs to make it really, really easy to see what data you have in which tool. So different approaches are possible. So
yes,
let's go back to the. Let's go back to the tool. Oh, Arthur, I can't see you. So if you want to say something,
it's great. I just
talking.
Yeah, I will talk then. It's I'm with you. Was it kind of so easy to set it up as you tell, or are there any problems with
my
setup,
first setup?
or?
So you see you see here, I connected GitHub. And obviously GitHub, it was, oh, I have GitHub. I have a GitHub repository by myself. So let's try it. And you have to do two things in the beginning. You have to set up a destination and you have to set up the connector. And to set up the destination was a little bit harder because I needed to create a service principal. I needed to use the Entera previous Azure AD and set it also up in the workspace. But in the end, to connect GitHub to my 2 hours. So I would say really fast.
Okay, and this can be like
now
a boost
something
for
really, really nice.
adoption.
If you're So when you are in a connector, you not only have the status, you also have the schema. And this is something really, really nice because here you see what kind of data the connector will provide you. And obviously you can also select and deselect the data. So you do not have to do a full load of, let's say, HubSpot. If you're just interested in your context and you're saying everything else I'm not interested in, you can just set up the connector for HubSpot. So this means on this point, you say, okay, I just use the HubSpot connector with the contracts and everything else I don't want to see. And really cool is in the connectors, you always get also the documentation. And if I now go for the documentation, you also see this. And a lot of data guys really like if they're seeing this here, because you always get the data schema of the source. So, and how the data is connected. So this really helps you to understand what is in the back end. So even if you don't use the tool, this can help you later if you're using the notebook approach to know which data you have to load in order to get all the data you need to model it in a star scheme. Please be aware, a lot of data bases or data platforms in the back end of software as a service tools are not designed for analytical purposes. They are designed for transactional purposes. This means their databases are transactional. So, and be aware, a transactional database has different structures than an analytical database. So there is not always the type of star schema we want to have for Power BI. It's a schema what is optimized for transactions within this data application, within this application at all. So you have to transform at some points the tables into a easy to analyze star scheme, or maybe you start with a single table approach, but at least you have to transform it, because in the source and what the connector provides you is more or less the structure from the source system. So this is also really nice to have if you have this kind of table explaining how all the data is connected, what is the ER diagram of it. So just as one example for how the connector looks in the back. I can also show this for obviously for YouTube analytics, and you see again, you see what you can get from your data, and you see all the columns I can choose, all the tables I can choose, and this helps me to say, okay, what I want to use, what I don't want to use. And you see also here the usage, how many rows you have to update. So, and this is in this tool what they're charging. So you are charged for data you get from your sources. So as more data, as more it will cost. I'm now working, as you can see, with a free plan, and like 500,000 are included. So 500,000 of this metric. Yeah.
And it never expires, so you can continue with Freeplan forever if you like it.
Exactly. So I started with the trial, and why was this so valuable? Because with the trial, you also get the possibility to test the connectors, and you also get a cost estimation. This means if you set up your main sources, let's say HubSpot, let's say YouTube, let's say Jira as main sources for your analytical things, and after 7 days, they have an estimation what a full version of the copying of the data would cost you. So you can set up in 1 day your main sources. Obviously, you have to have the right access accounts. So you need a Jira account, what is allowed to access Jira from an API side, and so on. But after you did this, you have 1 week, you can run it for 1 week, and you will see how many data it processed. And based on this, you will get an estimation, what is your pricing. And if you're way under the 500,000, as I am, you can use a free plan and start with a free plan. And if you know your company, for example, you're a startup, will scale up, you can say, okay, now I've bought me the time to develop the notebooks later, or you can say, okay, it's a cost I can calculate, so I plan it in my IT budget. So different scenarios you can use. And obviously, if you are started with this, there's a risk that you say, okay, I can't switch it now because I've so many connectors from here. It could be a potential risk. But it's the you have to weigh up if you want to ease of use versus another tool. So there's a decision, make or buy.
Yeah,
as
it's
always,
like we have it with Power BI and Fabric too.
Yeah. And as you can see, it's really nicely working with Fabric. So I get it just in my lakehouse, and every other step is just as you know it from Fabric. You can build a new semantic model. You can model your data with data flows, with pipelines and notebooks. Feel free. So, or even with SQL. So completely everything from here on is straightforward data management in Fabric. So maybe something for next part if we show it end to end. But for now, it's just how we can fast connect different sources what are not already built in either things, either the data factory, because also in the data factory there are a lot of connectors, or in data flows. Therefore, in Power BI, if you have some other sources, maybe Fivetran, or there are different other tools like Stitch or Hivu, is helping you to easily connect this type of data to get the data out of your software as a service tools with APIs and get it easy into your Fabric environment. Yeah.
So sometimes even we need help from some other tools and not only stick with Fabric. Yeah. So sorry for this, but
okay.
it is like
this was a little presentation.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So even in Vegas.
Questions?
Yeah, I think so far we only have some appreciation from Ulrich. So it's perfect for small companies and citizen developers. Here it is again. Fantastic.
Yeah, and I really think it's an accelerator. If you're starting with data project, and if you have the situation that you not have the big IT, not have a big data platform already, you can fast start. Obviously, the 500,000 then is a good starting point. And if you see you are exceeding this limit, you have to think, okay, how to further go. Building the connector by your own with a notebook, or say, okay, it's valuable enough to pay for it. So you have your use case for it. You have a business case behind this. So this really depends on how is your decision going on. So And
Yeah.
always be aware, if you're using tools, there will be cost with tools. So it's no free lunch. It's the same with Fabric. There's no free lunch. At some point, you have to pay for your data analytics.
But now I understand a little bit better why the Fabric is starting the trial with a 64, because it's always, of course, to estimate your cost and to see which capacity you need to buy.
Okay.
It's the
Yeah.
same in Fabric, so or might be. I think so.
To be honest, at the moment, you can start, if you start with a trial from Fivetran and the Fleetplan and Fabric, you really fast can build an end-to-end solution. I would say for some
Developers want money for their work.
yes, they do. Maybe you can outsource them, but even if you
Yeah.
outsource them, they want money.
Yeah, and even if they are around, I think they have some other valuable stuff to do. So otherwise, they wouldn't be around. So it sometimes it's like all make or buy decisions. Of course, you could code everything from scratch, and you wouldn't need Fabric and Power BI. But it's a pain, and it's a very
I
lots
guess
of work.
if you think about resources and if you think about developers and especially about, I would say, data engineering guys with a Python background for creating this kind of pipelines, this kind of notebooks, because obviously if you're connecting to APIs, you need some kind of programming language. And if you're going with Power BI and Fabric, the programming language of your choice is more than often PySpark. It will be PySpark because it's naturally included in the notebooks. And even if you have a developer knowing this, as you said before, good developers are a rare resource. And if you think about this, maybe he needs 1 to 2 days to develop your connector, but then he needs maybe a half a day in a month to maintain this. And if you calculate this against the cost you have to use a tool, it can be that the tool costs are less than the developer costs. So your opportunity costs are less than you have to bring a developer on something like an API call. And the thing what is also helpful, so the tool provider has to maintain the connector. So if something is changing from the source side, they have to care and not you.
Yeah.
And
But
because
you're
this
also
is
dependent, of course, but you're always dependent. I think you're even dependent on HubSpot and
yeah, sure.
yeah, Google, all the other APIs that you use actually.
And obviously, it can be tricky if you are a typical German company customizing your tools as crazy as it gets. Then maybe the connectors not get all your data because you're going out wild with building new tables. In SAP, these are the infamous set tables. So I never have seen, for example, an application of SAP without set table. Maybe this is at some points where you have to look for special solutions, but the general setting, you get all your data and can start from this point.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff, good accelerator. And yeah, you have shown the most stuff, and if you still have 5 to 10 minutes, I just have not much to add because we want to keep it focused, our sessions. But what I do have is actually, yeah, one thing Philip, our friend Philip, has told me, this lightweight DLT hub. This might be one of the tools when you want to switch from a tool like Fivetran then to Python, because this one helps you to create your data pipelines in Python. I never used it before, so it's just we're not sponsored, and just a mention. And I trust Philip, so this might be one solution. Yes, and then besides this, in parallel, I also have like an API project at the moment. So what a coincidence, so we are talking about data ingestion today, and I was using Personio. It's a German like HR and human resources software, but it's quite popular. So maybe it's also part and has a connector in Fivetran.
Yeah, it does.
It okay.
I
It
already looked this up.
okay. So it has, but I think it has no connector in Power BI, right?
No, not in Power
This
BI.
is so
So
this also a
typical
good example.
example where you can have the question make or buy.
Yeah. Yeah, and now I think when I would only need to import one system, then the Python way. So as we started with just HubSpot, we also started with notebooks, right? And but then when it comes this and this and this and this, then Fivetran is much better than to create notebooks by
So,
yourself. Yeah.
so to be honest, Personio is still in a light mode. You do not get
Okay.
all the data out of Personio.
Okay. So the API
Another
is
thing
not
to
that
mention,
rich. Yeah. Do you have
another
anything
thing
to
to mention, because I
mention
worked with
here?
Personio
Yeah.
before, Personio
Mm.
has not the best API. So you do
Yeah.
not get
It's
all the data you need
mm,
automatically from Personio in an easy way. So I guess they are focused
mm.
more on the working side, not on the getting data out of the application side.
Yeah, everyone needs to focus, and I really tried. It was like shortly before this talk, I tried to, let ChatGPT help me, and this is quite cool because I just asked how can I connect to REST API from a Python notebook, and here something was created, and now we will just try a first live test. The only thing I did so far, because it wouldn't be possible without, is client ID and client secret. Of course, I cannot hard code them here because I have no trial license for Personio. So I loaded up this variables JSON that Tom Martens describes in his blog. So just follow Tom Martens for more awesome stuff. And I want to create a notebook here in my empty lakehouse with just these parameters inside. This is something I need. And then I need to copy some code from Tom because I need to get these parameters. This is like, it's still legacy code from Tom, and I really need the client secret. So Tom is using a key vault in Azure and has no client secret, but I have a client secret in place. So I also need a client secret and client ID. The other ones are not important. The pass result is okay. I have a pass file data in place. I can write the data then. And I also can the lake house. No, the lake house is not named here. Okay, but maybe in the file. Okay, so let's check if it reads everything correctly. This will be the first test, but it's just copied code from myself and original from Tom. So it's just if everything goes right. So important is client ID and client secret, because without I obviously cannot use the Personio API, and it worked good. So, and then I will test if ChatGPT is already so great that it will deliver. Interesting, I just asked a generic question, right? I don't even specify which endpoint to use. So Personio decided for me and just used the employees endpoint, but it was quite correct. It's okay. It's a good start. And then I can, of course, I need to loop employee by employee. In fact,
Oh,
I need to.
I did this with the HubSpot call. because there was one structure where I need a looping over each line of
Yeah.
and at some point this can really kill your performance.
Okay, but this is something that ChatGPT in monitoring cases it does quite well for me.
Okay.
So I'm quite optimistic, but now I need right here client ID, client secret, so don't yeah. Do not hard code them, and everything else should be like the payload and connection, and this is just to get the token. So I can test this first and see if the okay, then it's like for some reason it was print. It's included here, right? So the print is token. Maybe I should comment this out so nobody can just access Personio so far. Oh, print. Okay. Else this kind of access token is the just one that it's not revealed here, right? In the video. So okay. And now, so it will expire anyway soon. So, but just to be sure. So okay, I've got this token from ChatGPT, and now the last thing is just to copy this code and then fetch the done MP data and then print employee data, and then okay, it's just names, so it's kind of okay. And there's because the salary data and all the important stuff is somewhere else. I already tested it in the Personio web uh, view here, so it's okay, but I will not show it for too long. Just proof of concept. How good is ChatGPT so far? So let's do it. And of course, it's doing it, right? That's the data. I will not go into details because it's still, personal data. But it's kind of a funny fact that you can get data and it was executed. There's some names here. So it's not too hard personal, right? But it's I will the stream to be kept public, so I don't show too much. But
Yeah.
it's kind of amazing that it's already showing. So ChatGPT can help you with only one prompt, and it was not like a crafted prompt or something. It's just a question. How good it already is. Of course, if you have this, I've got a wild JSON, and that's why what you were telling, Fivetran would make a table out of it. This is something I have to do next because the
Yeah.
output is a JSON, and in this, I even have the problem. Okay, I don't have a real structure. I need to ask him for like a output. Can you show me a sample output? Right. So I have this. Have no privacy issues when I put this in. So with my Power BI monitoring, I have no problem just to paste the JSON here, but I just need a sample output to ask him to flatten the JSON and to create a
Yeah, and at some
table
point,
for me.
this was a problem I had with
Mm.
with HubSpot. Not all attributes have values, and it's always
Mm.
creating a JSON based on only if there is a key value pair. And this can be a
Mm.
problem if you're transferring it to a table, because then you
Yeah.
have different lengths of your JSON statements, and then you have to
And this is quite fantastic, right? Even if I don't ask, the conversion to a data frame is already in place. So the
yeah
JSON is not too crazy. And then
yeah
the next thing, definitely, what I would ask is to go further and to not employments. That's not the interesting thing, but I think there also the payment stuff compensations. Yes, I need the compensations, and I need them for every month. So don't ask me why, but then yeah, and then we can loop with start date for a year and the person ID and legal entity ID. I think it's also mandatory, and then I surely can ask here, but doesn't make sense because of course I wouldn't show this anyway in Fabric because the data gets more and more sensible, right? But I can
Yeah. But
I can ask
it's a
him
good
to.
point to show that you also, as said before, you can do both ways. You can do the ChatGPT, the JSON, the notebook way, or you can go the connector way. So you see both routes are possible, roads, and you have to think about what makes more sense for you.
Yes, and obviously when you have one or two endpoints, Python is quite okay, but you don't want to talk with ChatGPT about 100 endpoints or even about 20, what's quite usual for modern
Yeah,
companies.
just it's just always a matter of time and budget
Yeah.
and resources in the end.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
also
and here,
about if you have developers which have the time for this, because
yes,
if you're not having a developer, I wouldn't recommend doing doing this notebook stuff without any background in developing, because you have to be a ChatGPT is obviously great, but it's not perfect. So there will be some flaws in the language sometimes, and you have to see the flaws and you have to find ways to get around them. So
yeah,
this is where I say, okay, you can start with it, but
yeah,
don't expect perfect results. The
yeah,
results
yeah,
are good,
that's true.
and the
I was
results
quite
are real.
lucky.
Yeah, the results are often also a real good starting point, but in some cases, they can cause a lot of frustrations. If
Yeah.
there's something in and you don't see
Mm.
what is wrong, you can be really, really frustrated. And I guess, Arthur, you also were back in the time frustrated by ChatGPT already.
Yes, yes. With Dex, it's still some pain, and with Power Query too, and it gets some
So, for example,
special stuff. I will tell
I
you.
did it also for Power Query, and I love to do it for Power Query. And sometimes it's writing down the wrong functions. So it's misspelling functions because they are spelled different in different programming languages. And ChatGPT sometimes mixing up little naming conventions, and this can cause a lot of frustration. So if,
Yes.
for example, you have in a lot of programming languages, you have the concept of if statements, and sometimes it makes little mistakes and how it displays the if statement. For example, if you use an if statement in Power Query, it has always be small because it's case sensitive. In other languages, it's completely irrelevant. So this can cause some little small errors, or also if you're using functions, the underscore and so on. So there are a lot of small things that can go wrong, and you have to find them, and therefore you at least have to know a little bit about the programming language you tell ChatGPT should use, in my opinion.
Yes. Okay, and I think that's a good point to come to an end, right?
It was quite
So
developer heavy today, wasn't it?
yes, it was. We were getting more and more backend and about code and architecture, and we haven't seen Power BI for the whole talk.
Yeah.
So now we are programmers, and
Next
this
time we are going front end.
yeah,
We go
we
full
need
out
to
front
show
end.
some more front end, and we need to show the aquarium visual. Then it's really amazing.
Started the whole conversation. Okay.
Okay, then thanks everyone for watching, and see you next time. See you when you're back in Europe, Michael.
Yeah. See you
Yeah,
next week.
bye-bye.